Welcome to my channel, Authentic Ingenuity Entrepreneur. Hi, my name is Minna Crichton. In this clip, you'd find this clip is relevant for everybody. There's something in it for everyone, and this legislation is a legislation that everyone should know, whether you are a CEO, an employee, or a member of the public. This legislation is the legislation that you use if you want to lodge complaints against an organisation or an individual within, your circumstances. So this legislation, I believe everyone should know. Unfortunately, in my experience, I've used it and some people have not known what this legislation is all about. So, it's your responsibility to make sure that everybody knows about this legislation, because these are the legislation that you use for things like privacy breaches and serious wrongdoings within your environment. And so when an investigation takes place, these sort of complaints should be taken seriously, because it avoids, it getting to a point where it becomes a serious danger, on the actual applicant or the other innocent civilians that may get dragged into it in the process if it's not been investigated properly at the time. I knew that someone was, I knew I felt cloned, because I felt that whoever was doing what they were doing has never really left my personal space. And if I needed to fall back on something in the future to support myself, I wanted to make sure that I had done everything right. So it was definitely one of those things where I felt cloned. But in saying that, it was important for me to protect myself legally, because at the end of the day, that's all I had, was the laws to protect me. So at this time, in this case, I'm the actual victim in this case, and this, my channel is not like for anybody in public to feel sorry for me, because everyone knows that I'm not a drama queen. I'm not an attention seeker. And if anybody's had any issue, it's been the other people. They're in my space. I'm not in theirs. So basically, I feel like I've just been, just trying to protect myself. But, I keep getting attacked. And it's been, things out of my control. So the protected disclosure is used for to have companies and organisations and government agencies investigated if there's been some kind of complaints about suspicious wrongdoing. It's called wrongdoing because there are things, every company, just like the individual is expected, there are laws surrounding where they've got to abide to it. When it comes to criminal stuff where there's been a serious crime, or anything serious, it falls in the legal system, and anything legal always overrides any made-up policies. But in saying that, I have come through experience where some people have actually taken little bits and pieces of a law and then use that as like some sort of gospel, rule that they're not going to change. The laws don't work like that in the real world and in court. So that's why it's really important as an individual. The laws are not one size fit all. It is a case by case basis. But this protected disclosure that I lodged in 2010, it proves that there has been unresolved issues. It proves that I was subject to cyberbullying back in 2010. And it proves that I, as a complainant, have used the legal system, for help and for all the right reasons that they are there for. Unfortunately, it has let me down. But then in saying that, if you look at someone like myself with my circumstance, I was already outnumbered. The disadvantage that I had was that some people had already done some unlawful investigation into my past without my consent and without a legal search warrant. So everything's been done, whether it's been done through sharing information or gossiping. And the other danger about what I've gone through, these people are using people within your private space to interview you while they are actually recording you secretly. So that's still against the law if it was to be challenged in court, because that's a privacy breach. But it seems that a lot of people think that that's okay to do that. They wire people within your personal life, and then you have this private conversation, and you talk about private information that if you had known that you're being recorded, you at least then you would have a choice whether you want to talk to that person about it or not. So this has been going on for myself for a very, very, very long time. So regardless of what they have recorded in the legal system, I'm allowed to challenge that, whether I challenge that as an individual myself or get a lawyer to speak on my behalf. And I am within my right to represent myself. So what has actually happened is that this protected disclosure went through the management process. It was acknowledged. There was 2 separate applications, and at this time there was one for my church, and then there was one in regards to my employer I was working at the time. But back then it was just, a gossip thing within my private life. The problem was it was happening. I had felt that somebody was passing on private information of my activity within my workplace. Private activities, because when you go to work, work is work. We go, as soon as you leave at 5 o'clock or whenever you walk out that door, you leave it behind. And that's the type of person I was. The problem that I had, that it didn't leave behind whatever I did throughout the day. Someone was passing on private information about myself to people in my private life, and vice versa. So common sense is, when that is happening, that is called secret public exploitation. So I knew way back then that what I was going through was going to get really, really serious, not only for myself, but for everyone who I was close to, whether it's my close immediate family or my close immediate friends. And that is exactly what happened.
Right.
So in the circumstances of if there was no other alternative, then we would understand if you went ahead with it. But if special leave was still available, then hence my question. I was going to ask, since it's paid suspension, you're paying, the effect is the same. I was wondering whether you were concerned if there was any, if the special leave didn't provide you with security in terms of Minna not coming to work, if that was your concern, or coming on site.
Okay. Thanks for the underlying issue, and apologies if I'm teaching you to suck eggs. So look, are there any other comments and or Minna that you want to make in terms of the issue before us, and that's continuation of special leave versus suspension, given my concerns about a return to work at this stage?
The process from here then is that prepared the report and presented its findings. Then what's been at this stage? So obviously considering and the report and getting other information if he needs it, and then what will he do at that point once he's finished doing that?
My understanding of where it's at with the process is that he's received reports and the submissions that the parties have made, or the notes from the interviews with the parties, and that he's currently at the stage where he's forming a preliminary view. Now, I would expect that in the next little while, I was going to say the next few days or so, he should be communicating back with you and Minna his preliminary views in respect of the allegations. So the investigation that's the point at which we're at.
So at that point, obviously we comment on those views. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. So preliminary views, the findings from the investigation, his preliminary views, and your ability to make submissions and comments on the preliminary views.
Glenn speaking now.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, putting his preliminary views together, he, like I said, in the next wee while, at that point, there's the opportunity to provide submissions. I suspect then is contemplating the possibility of asking for a medical assessment, and so that would be built into that as well, if that's where he decides to go. And subject to any of that, there would be, the process would conclude with a meeting between, I imagine, the two of you, and which, if there's a medical assessment, will depend on how quickly that can occur. Otherwise, if there's not a medical assessment requested, then it's probably a matter of, a couple of weeks before everyone would be sitting down to talk to one another.
Okay, well, you've mentioned the medical assessment, and so that's really the point I was probably getting to was we would comment on the interim findings, and then he would make a decision. So it's important that since that is at the heart of, or a big consideration in this matter, if not at the heart of it, and it's certainly at the heart of the proposed suspension, that we probably need to understand that what you're wanting in terms of that medical assessment.
Look, I can't say at this point. I haven't spoken about that,
Right.
But I know that that's something that's playing in his mind at the moment. That's all I can say at this point, because I'm just not sure.
Okay, so it's as long as there's enough time so that the process doesn't roll on without that medical assessment or a discussion to be had around the medical assessment before the process moves to any conclusion. That's a given, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Alluded to, then that will depend on whether that's a factor in preliminary views.
Okay, but you're not sure whether it is going to be a factor at this point?
We're not positive.
Right, okay. Can you have that? I think it's quite important that that's factored into it somehow. So there would be an assumption from, excuse me, I've got a cold. There's an assumption from our end that there would be some medical information put into the mix. And so it would be useful to have that conversation with whoever as soon as possible, really.